Hey guys, what's up? It's your girl Grace Torie, and I am back with a whole new podcast episode. We have not done a petty revenge episode since Halloween, and we are long overdue. We've been talking about a lot of bettering ourselves, a lot of advice, a lot of those types of things, and that's so much fun, but I think that we all deserve a little bit of petty revenge in our lives, like nothing like a little bit of popcorn and some entertainment, right? Like work hard, play hard. So now that we've done a lot of working, we're gonna play hard. We are going to be doing love-related petty revenge from the subreddit Petty Revenge. It's all like dating focused because Valentine's Day is this month, so I felt like it was fitting to do things around dating. So that's what we're going to be doing today. Some of these are old, some of these are new, but I'm really excited to get into them with you all. Before I jump in, don't forget to like, follow, comment, all the things on whatever platform you're currently listening or watching on. If you are a girly in her 20s looking for a community of women to grow with and reach your goals with, then you found the right place. If you do end up subscribing or following and you're on one of the platforms where you can comment, don't forget to comment #GalWithGoals so that I know that you are a real one. So yeah, let's go ahead and jump on into the podcast episode. I'm Grace Torie, and you're listening to That Girl the Podcast. Grab a beverage of choice and settle in, because the new episode is starting now. The first one is called I Embarrassed Jerk Customer in Front of Date, Forcing Him to Eat Crow. So the place I worked at was pretty nice by normal standards, but for my area, it was basically one of about 3 nice places to sit down and eat in a 30-mile radius. Had a guy come in shortly after opening one day, said he wanted to reserve a table for that night, and wanted to know if we could make it special. He had flowers he'd purchased, and he asked if we could bring them out during the meal. I said it was no problem, and even let him fridge the flowers in the back so they'd be nice and fresh for that evening. He also wanted a secluded table. I looked at the reservations, and he was the only one, so we reserved around 6 tables around the fireplace for him and told the other servers to only use those tables if we got busy. This was all in front of him. I felt like we were sort of helping him plan. It was fun, and you don't get to have a lot of chances to do something nice and rewarding waiting tables, so we were all on board to make it an awesome night. When they arrive, I've got the table done up with candles, and we ended up being really slow, so I was able to give them the entire fireplace room to themselves and put everyone else in the main dining room. The dinner went off without a hitch. I gave them a free wine tasting, free dessert, brought the flowers out, the whole bit. The guy's date was positively beaming. I felt great, and the rest of the staff just thought it was a really neat little evening we'd thrown together for these folks. I saw them get up to leave and grabbed the little black book we'd put folks' bill in to see if I'd gotten a nice tip or even a nice little thank you or something. So naive. There was their ticket, and the tip line had a big, fat line drawn through it. This was a $100+ meal. I'd been stiffed plenty of times. Usually you just shrug it off and on to the next. But the fact that this guy had asked for service above and beyond made me see red. Before I could even think about it, I was fast walking up to the happy couple. I caught them right at the front door. "Was everything all right with your service today?" I heard myself asking. The lady starts to beam. "It was so wonderful. Thank you so much." Dude gives me the look. That look of, oh shit, don't bust me out, dude. The panic in his eyes seals his fate. "Are you sure about that?" I ask, and flip the bill book open and point at the tip line. The lady gasps. "You didn't tip him?" I forgot. I have money in my car." She looks at him incredulously. He runs out to his car and grabs me a wadded up $5 that almost certainly came from his pocket, not the car. Put it in my hand while giving me a death stare, and they walked out awkwardly. Yeah, that's just like audacity. Like the audacity that you would have to expect someone to do something that nice to, like, for you, to go above and beyond, and then to not tip them. Like, not tipping them in general is terrible, but to not tip them after they've gone above and beyond, like, you must truly think that you are like the most amazing person on the planet and everyone owes everything to you. Like, the entitlement is insane here, and that was a very harmless thing to get revenge on with, so love that for you, love that for him, and I hope that she dumped him. I really do, because that's a red flag. This next one is titled Bad First Date Revenge. This isn't a huge revenge like some sort of other post I have read, but it made me feel better at the time. 20 years ago, I went on a blind date that was set up through a phone dating site. We met up at a nice restaurant that he suggested. He also said this date was on him because he is a gentleman and was brought up that way. He seemed nice enough upon meeting him, but when we sat down to order, looking at the menu, he commented on how expensive everything was. He seemed nice enough upon meeting him, but when we sat down to order, looking at the menu, he commented on how expensive everything was. He then said he was just going to get the burger meal, and I should too. I thought, okay, whatever, but when the waitress came to take our drink order, the waitress accidentally brought him out the wrong beer. He was so nasty to her. He said, "This is not what I ordered. Bring me the right beer." She apologized. She was flustered and so upset. He told her he didn't want to hear her apologies for doing something so stupid. He just wants the right beer. He was really nasty and condescending. I couldn't believe it. Then turned to me all normal like that never happened and was like, "So what do you do for a living?" I didn't say much, gave him just little 1-2 word answers because I was grossed out by him now. And he kept pushing the cheapest meal on the menu. Waitress brings him his beer, the right one this time, and he says, "Oh look, she can think," in that condescending tone of his. The poor girl was red-faced and on the verge of tears. I told the girl I'm ready to order and decided to order the most expensive thing on the menu and the most expensive drink, and I decided to get the most expensive dessert. He tried to talk me out of it. I ignored him and said to the waitress, "This is what I want. The gentleman said it was on him today. He was brought up that way," with a big smile. I sat there and smiled and let him talk all about himself while I enjoyed my very expensive steak, only to give him short answers. As we were leaving, he gave the girl a $1 tip. He said that was all she deserved. Outside by my car, he asked when he could see me again, and I said, "Oh, he cannot." I told him he was so nasty and condescending to that waitress that I would never want to see him again, ever. "You're disgusting, lose my number, pig." And I walked back into the restaurant and handed our waitress $10 and apologized for my date's bad manners. I explained this was a blind date and his last date with me. I love this. Like, this is one of those things when, like, someone wrongs you or wrongs someone else, and then you, like, have a fantasy, like, in your head about how you should have reacted, like, after the fact. Like, you go home and you're like, "Oh, I should have said this or I should have done this." That's what this is giving, and I'm so glad that he got a taste of his own medicine. Even if it's, like, not a big thing. Like, he, hopefully he learned his lesson, but I have a feeling he's probably still out there being extremely rude. Roommate's girlfriend tried getting me evicted. I got her dumped. 7 years ago, I moved into a 4-bedroom house with 3 of my friends. I was the only woman among 3 dudes. One of the roommates was the owner's son. We were all friends in college, and honestly, it was the best 2 years ever living situation-wise. We all had different work schedules, and because I worked the earliest, 6 a.m., I had the only downstairs bedroom. My friend, let's call him Jay, who worked night shift and got home at 4:30 a.m., had the room above me so that we didn't wake each other coming home. During the week, Jay and I would eat breakfast together before he went to bed and I went to work. We had a jar in the kitchen we would all throw spare cash in, like $5 or $10 at a time each. That was for common groceries like milk, eggs, basic bread, and occasional house meals and beer, because we were in our early to mid-20s. The rule was always that if you used the last of the common use stuff, you'd take from the jar to cover the cost and grab it from the store as soon as possible. When we grabbed pizza or I'd make a meal for everyone, we used the same fund. This is all very, very important. About 5 months into the living situation, Jay met Karen and started dating her. He brought her to one of our game nights to introduce her to us, to get a feel for how she'd mesh with us, and all was fine when she thought I was only the girlfriend of another roommate. As we were playing in the dining room by my room, Karen saw me go in that room to grab a sweater early in the night. Then she saw my roommate, the one she assumed I was dating, go upstairs to grab his phone charger. The entire vibe changed, and she started to ask me who I was dating. She was floored when my roommates confirmed I lived there, I had my own room, and I wasn't dating any of them. She saved face. She said she was just surprised I'd want to live with 3 men, and we moved on. Cam, the owner's son, and I were the only ones that realized Karen saw this as a problem. After that, she started coming over right after I got off work, and only leaving when Jay went to work. If I came out of my room to the living room, she'd ask why I was out there. If I was going to the kitchen, she would remark that I was being disrespectful to her and Jay and interrupting their time together. If I was talking to Jay when she got there, she'd practically grind on him and shove her tongue down his throat. She even complained that I was ruining the mood for doing my laundry. That's, okay, pause. Absolutely not. Like, absolutely not. A hostile living situation is the worst thing ever from someone who's been in a hostile living situation. The passive aggressiveness, like asking you why you were like out of your room if you are in the living room. Oh, absolutely not. Oh, Yeah, a little angry about that. Jay had made it clear that he knew she was being a problem and had started pushing for them to just chill in his room. She used the opportunity to make some of the worst, corn imitation noises any of us other roommates had ever heard. We laughed it off and just left those two alone. After a couple weeks, she had gotten drunk before Jay went to work, and we insisted she stay in his room and sleep it off. I literally brought her food and Tylenol because girl was going to feel like hell in the morning. The next morning, Jay came home and started making breakfast for me and him when Karen came down and just started screaming. She woke the other two roommates up. She accused Jay of cheating, accused me of having relations with all the guys, then made the dumbest statement possible. She demanded I pay Jay back for the food he was quote-unquote wasting on me. Cam literally grabbed a $5 from the jar and slapped it in Jay's hand. Cam and I had a come-to-Jesus talk with Jay. We both told him if she couldn't deal with me living there, then she could no longer come over. Jay asked for a week to figure things out, trying to claim she was just caught by surprise when she saw him making me breakfast and not thinking clearly. We gave him a week. In that week, mysteriously the grocery jar was getting raided. We all noticed and talked about it. We noticed my clean dishes were appearing still clean in the sink. Little things were disappearing from common rooms and weirdly appearing in my room. Karen was being sweet. She was not exactly covert. Cam and I knew she was sowing chaos, but being curious where this was headed, we just watched. See, this is the passive-aggressive stuff I was talking about. That just, it can take over your life. After a week, Cam gets a call from his mom asking if I had been going through something lately. Apparently, a concerned party had sent her picture after picture and story upon story about how I was trashing the house and stealing. Karen expected this to get me in trouble. Lucky for me, my landlord was actually worried I was not doing okay and wanted Cam to help me get through it. Cam told me, and I started planning my petty revenge. First thing I did was eliminate the grocery jar. I split up what was in it evenly between the four of us and told them that because of the raided stash, I felt it needed to go away. Karen didn't like this, but when asked why, she claimed it was rude for me to make a unilateral decision. Cam backed me. Battle won. Then I started hanging with Cam in the living room every day. She complained, but Jay told her it's our house and we can do as we please. When she would go to the kitchen, one of us always asked what she was doing in our fridge. She stopped going in our fridge after 2 days. The weekend was here and we knew Jay had an extra overnight shift and Karen was planning to stay in his room so they could hang out the next day. Cue my biggest petty move ever. Just a little information, Cam and I met in college where we were both studied theater, specifically acting. That Friday, we hung out in his room right next to Karen's. We made a bit of a show when Jay left and acted like he could not know that Cam and I were hanging out alone in his room. This caught Karen's attention. We started shaking the bed. Two nerdy people hip thrusting the end of the bed to give the illusion the spicy thing was going down is quite awkward, but oh so entertaining. Within minutes, we got a text from Jay asking what we were doing. Cam replied, playing video games. After 10 minutes, we stopped the bed shaking and actually did play video games. On mute. When Jay demanded a FaceTime session, he saw exactly what he wanted to see. Me being Cam in Mario Party. We cycled through this for a few hours. After a while, we decided to put the finishing touches on. We made a big deal about me needing to go to my room before Jay got home, and Karen took the bait. We could see the little bit of light being cut off in the slightly open door by her watching. Cam and I stage kissed, and I headed to the living room. Jay came in 10 minutes later to find me watching a movie, normal for me, and asked what was up. I told him I'd been playing video games all night with Cam. He tells me Karen claimed we were doing the nasty and I told him we didn't. He goes to bed. The next day, Jay calls a house meeting without Karen. He tells us she's making claims of us having a relationship and hiding it from him. We say she's full of it. We tell him about the frame job she tried to pull, how she went to Cam's mom to get me in trouble. Jay asks our other roommate if he heard anything from the bedroom. Bro doesn't even flinch and says, I heard her calling Cam her bitch and the usual Mario Party shit talk. They weren't banging. Jay asked about the grocery jar. We told him we suspected Karen. The next day he broke up with her for trying to turn him against us. He called her a liar and a thief. A few months later, he dated another girl. She was awesome, and they're married now. I was a bridesmaid. But the absolute best part? Karen being one of the waitstaff and seeing Cam with his wife and me with my fiancé, telling them the story of how we once dry-humped a mattress fully clothed to get back at a thief. Yes, Jay knows the whole story, and he didn't mind at all. To address the reason Jay wanted to know if we were actually getting funky, he is the kind of dude who hates useless secrets. If Cam and I were hooking up, he'd be fine with it. If we were hooking up and actively hiding it from him, like we couldn't trust him, he'd have an issue. That was why we played hard into the Jay can't know part. Though Cam says Jay secretly wanted us to get together, but nah. So Karen's the worst. I will say that. One thing I am confused about is they ended up telling Jay that it was all like a frame job and they didn't actually like bang, right? So what was the point if they were just trying to like trick, like gaslight everyone? Because that's what I was like thinking, oh, they're gaslighting everyone by like pretending, and then Karen is like actually believing it, and then Jay's believing it. Like, it got him to call a house meeting, but couldn't they just call a house meeting? I don't know. I was very confused about that, but other than that, very excellent work. I approve of this message. I didn't seek this revenge, you asked for it. So like the title says, I only gave him what he asked for, and it was definitely petty. So I was married to a very manly man for 17 years. I ended up doing all the admin tasks and mental load tasks. He had a money-earning job, and I did everything else, even schedule this man's dental appointments and buy his parents' birthday cards. At first it was fine, but eventually not so much, and he refused to change, so things came to a head and ended. I'm sure after I left, he was unpleasantly surprised to discover how much work his assistant did. Anyways, it's been 5 years, we have our own lives, and I don't think about him much, and we certainly don't talk. But one day I started getting calls from him. He explains to me that he never removed me from his home and auto insurance and says, they won't remove you unless you call. He is pissy and keeps calling me and saying I have to do this right away and being very rude. It's been 5 years and now it's an emergency? Okay. He ends up calling me every day for a week and saying I've quote-unquote created a problem for him. I called the company and the woman on the phone says, no, we totally would have removed you. He never asked. I can see there is no record of him calling ever. Oh, really? She then says, you know, moving him from married to a single man, this is going to raise his rate considerably. Is he sure this is important to him? I laughed. Oh yes, very important. In fact, I haven't lived there for 5 years, so his current policy should really be backdated. She laughs and says, yes, he's now going to get a large bill. Not my problem anymore. Okay, love that. So, I love that. When the older women have, like, spent a lot of their life with a man who has treated them badly or treats them badly, then I love that. Like, go off, queen. And again, like, she's not doing anything wrong. He is single. I will say that there was an update. I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's just, like, a lot of words to basically say that the reason he called her after 5 years was because he got a girlfriend and the girlfriend saw her name on everything. But he also sucks. Like, he never really was there for the kids and, like, just basically pretended they didn't exist for this new girl and, like, his new life. So, yeah, he sucks and deserves everything that came to him. And I'm not joking when I say that. Like, he did. We have time for one more, but if you guys want to hear even more of these, definitely let me know and I'll do a part 2, a whole nother podcast episode about this. But our last one is titled, How My Girlfriend Exposed a Cheater and Helped a Friend with Her Own Pregnancy Test. This is fairly recent, so I haven't seen the full fallout yet. I'll update and edit as I hear more. My girlfriend and love of my life has a friend. We'll call her Sarah. Sarah's great. Kind-hearted, trusting, bubbly. A few months ago, Sarah began dating an asshole. I'll call him Mark. Mark isn't great. We hung out as couples a few times, and Mark seemed great on the outside, but my girlfriend had a bad feeling about him. She said he reminded her of a snake charmer, always saying just the right thing, and she didn't trust him. But Sarah seemed happy, so live and let live. Sarah's devotion to Mark seemed to grow intensely and quickly. Then Sarah had a pregnancy scare and things turned dark. My girlfriend is currently pregnant with our first, and I'm ecstatic but terrified. Mark was not ecstatic. His true colors began to emerge, and more than once Sarah spent the night here with my girlfriend in a tub of Ben & Jerry's. It was sad. Apparently, first, Mark didn't believe it was his. Then he demanded an abortion. Finally, he fessed up. You probably guessed this already. Mark is married with kids. There's no trucking job that keeps him away for days at a time. Sarah was devastated. She genuinely believed she was in a loving, monogamous relationship. It was a chemical pregnancy, and less than a week later, she messaged Mark with the news. For about 2 weeks, Sarah near enough lived with us, which was hard, but not as hard as seeing my girlfriend seethe with rage over what Mark did. My girlfriend, love her, decided that Mark needed to face the consequences of his actions. She took it upon herself to conduct some thorough internet sleuthing and discovered that Mark had been leading a double life, dating multiple women simultaneously while still married to his unsuspecting wife. Sarah was just one of many, which made my girlfriend even madder. My girlfriend kept digging and managed to find Mark's home address. It wasn't even that hard. The idiot had a Facebook page with his real name, which was really similar to the name he'd been using. If he was calling himself Mark Evans, his real name was Matt Evans. It was comical how badly he'd been covering his tracks. On his Facebook page, he'd sold something and shared his home address. Publicly. It's been over a month now, Sarah's mostly doing better. In an act of poetic justice, my girlfriend sent one of her own pregnancy tests to Mr. and Mrs. Evans with a note that gave him no way out. Tell her or I will. The only other thing on the note was the number he'd been using when dating Sarah and his Instagram handle. Wouldn't you know it, but my girlfriend had me deliver it through her letterbox after Mark had gone out. I insisted that if she was going to follow through, she wasn't going to get physically close to Mark. This was only a few days ago. Sarah sent Mark's messaging saying he made a mistake and wants to stay with her to work on their relationship, so my guess is he got kicked out. Sarah was thrilled getting to tell him to go F himself. I feel bad for the wife and the kid, but honestly, I don't really part of me is maybe they shouldn't have been the ones to tell the wife, but then also part of me is no, I'm not going to blame them for the husband's actions. The husband's the one who's in the wrong here. I feel like this is a fantastic one to end on. Don't ever piss off your girlfriend because she's an evil genius and we love her. I would love to hang out with her and I'm happy to babysit too. Congratulations on the baby. So yeah, great one to end on. Let me know if you want me to do a part 2. I hope that you guys are enjoying your Sunday and you had a great start to February and things only get better from here. Hopefully you don't have any crazy petty revenge stories because your life is amazing and perfect and wonderful. But if you do, I would love to hear them. So comment them down below if you can. All right, I will see you guys next Sunday with a brand new podcast episode. I love you guys so much and I'll see you then. Bye.